Make America Healthy Again. That is, of course, the slogan coined by former independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that many have seized for their own purposes, including maybe Joe Rogan. The podcast mogul highlighted the movement on an episode of his show this week. Let's watch.
Well, that's one of the things that people are so excited about with this Trump union with Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy is that you're having these movements that seem to be almost impossible to achieve outside of an outsider, like the Make America Healthy Again concept. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to go up against these companies that have been donating to these political parties forever and have allowed them to have these regulations that are allowing them to have these dyes in food that's illegal in our neighboring Canada? Like, what? This is no one's done that before, right? So that's very exciting.
RFK Jr. continues to harp on the importance of children's health and safety. Here he is in a video from this week.
When it's the government that approves the poisons in our food, a few people get very, very rich, and the toxins end up in every supermarket aisle. Let me show you what I mean. Doritos, Cheez-Its, Cap'n Crunch, gummy bears. Everyone knows that these are junk foods, so maybe you wouldn't be too surprised to see that the ingredients include a lot of poisons, including a harmful yellow dye called tetrazine, or yellow dye number 5. What you may not know is that this dye was originally made out of the sludge that's left over when you turn coal into Coke. It's not all dark. Over the past 16 years, the government has banned 8 chemical additives that cause cancer, genetic damage, asthma, and many of the other health conditions, as tartrazine does. And you know what's interesting? All 8 of those crucial steps forward in our kids' health were taken under President Trump. But the Democrats, who claim to be all about health care, have stood by watching other countries ban these poisons and make our kids sick, asthmatic, hyperactive, and depressed.
So this is a major thing that RFK Jr. has obviously been pushing for a long time, that he's hoping Trump takes up, as that he's now endorsed Donald Trump and is behind him. And there were conversations this week about how to make us a healthier society. And yeah, you know, I'm often struck by how much more serious obesity there is in America versus so many other countries. You know, many of us have had at least the anecdotal experience of like traveling to Europe or something and feeling like you're on vacation and really like splurging on all the food they have there and not gaining any weight because it just seems there's something healthier about it. And maybe that's not scientific at all, and I hate bringing that up, but so many people have said that. But then you do compare the ingredients in the foods and you find out that maybe there is something wrong with how we're doing it in America.
Well, the EU bans a lot of these chemicals, so that's part of it. I just find it comical that RFK is joining the Trump administration that wants to eliminate and has cut back on the Clean Water Act in a deal with oil and gas. Clean water, I mean, right now, as the Biden administration has released in many reports, there's so much plastic. It's in everything. Like, we have plastic in our brain. That's what's been coming out. And RFK decides to go to the Trump campaign. This is the guy who was eating taco, whatever that was, and has the worst diet in the world, does not care about any sort of obesity issues. In fact, he's taking money from pharmaceutical companies that are making money off of obesity in this country. I just find it comical that he is playing this game, as he did in the environment, and Riverkeeper came out against him saying, you know, you were playing games with us and using us to push your own agenda, when in fact he wasn't actually helping fully in part of the Riverkeeper alliance and moving against them and cutting deals behind closed doors. That's what he's doing with this too. It's all a political ploy. That's it.
Well, RFK has acknowledged that he doesn't agree with Trump on everything, and I'm sure we could have an entirely separate debate on the merits or lack thereof of the Clean Water Act. Robby, I know that probably hits you pretty hard, but yeah. He couldn't even get a meeting with the Kamala Harris campaign or with the Biden administration. So is he going to align with a political candidate who at least has acknowledged that these problems are real and is interested in trying to tackle some of them? Or is he going to align with the one that wouldn't even pick up a phone call? I mean, that choice seems pretty obvious to me.
I think RFK was feeling opportunistic. I don't think it's because he doesn't think the Biden-Harris administration have been serious about these issues. I mean, they don't take all this money from oil and gas who are polluting our environment.
Well, but isn't he right to behave opportunistically? I mean, it's very difficult for independent and third-party candidates in this country because of our system just relentlessly encourages the two-party duopoly. They're very interested in working to keep it that way. You can't, unlike other systems where if you get, 1% or 5% or 10% of the vote, that translates to some minority position or stake in the government, some level of influence. In our winner-take-all system, it doesn't work like that. You have to get the majority of the vote, or you might as well have not even bothered. And so the only way for an independent or third-party candidate to translate their level of support, and he had 5, 10, 15% support at one point. That's significant. That's not nothing at all. The only way to leverage that into getting something you want, perhaps it is to join with a campaign. And, to Amber's point, the Democrats are totally uninterested now in having this figure who was once a Democrat, who was once in good standing with his party, whose environmental and energy record, and then whose heterodox opinions on vaccines was welcome in the Democratic Party. It's not now.
His vaccine, no, it was not welcome in the Democratic Party. He was just the quirky Democrat who had his own theories and was running around with Hollywood celebrities trying to influence them. This guy just wants power. He wants influence, and he wants protection.
Well, I mean, so do Donald. I agree, but so do Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Well, and the question is, does he want power for his own sake, or does he want to be part of administration so that if this is an issue he's really passionate about, he can try to affect change on it? And I don't think any of us have some special insight into his motivations or his internal reasoning for why he wants to do this.
I think there's a history now, and enough people on the record and reporting over the past few years of his using movements as an opportunistic gain so that he can move up in power in society and ranking and following whatever. Like I said, Riverkeeper, been a lot of reporting on that everybody at Riverkeeper realized that he was using them to cut deals behind closed doors with Barry Diller, his friend, in pushing his own agenda, and it went against Riverkeeper's agenda. So,
I don't doubt we've interviewed him on the show. He is very knowledgeable about a lot of health and energy and environment related issues. So I don't doubt his genuine interest in solving these problems. Now, I don't agree with necessarily a lot of his solutions, actually. And for instance, on this one, I worry that what if the FDA does strictly regulate a lot of things. The FDA making it harder to approve food and medicine products would end up making them, I would worry, much more expensive at this time where one of the top concerns of Americans is the cost of grocery store items, and having like a stricter regulation process would exacerbate that. Now, maybe it's incumbent on Americans to just demand or expect healthier products from companies, because there is a personal responsibility issue here. And he was talking earlier this week, RFK Jr. was, about, instead of the cost of Ozempic or whatever, you could give like a gym membership to everyone in America. Well, that's not going to work because because it's on people, right, to make healthier choices for themselves. You can't. Maybe it goes to a philosophical thing, but I don't think a more paternalistic government is going to fix the health problems of Americans to some degree. To
an extent. I would say on the FDA question, one point he brings up that is, I think, quite powerful is that there is an inherent conflict of interest in the fact that about 50% of the FDA's budget comes from pharmaceutical companies, right? I mean, they are a revolving door for people who are either in the bureaucratic system of the FDA approving drugs and then going to work for a drug company and making, a huge hefty salary off of the fact that they were in the FDA doing them favors. That's a huge problem. We shouldn't have that kind of conflict of interest between government and private interests in that way. And then on the question of SSRIs, he's one of the only individuals who's been running for political office that I can remember in my lifetime who has talked about the fact that the overprescription of SSRIs and anxiety medication can actually increase the incidence of depression and anxiety, particularly in young people. And so in that case, I would want more government regulation of those products because doctors right now are handing these things out like candy. I think it's something, the New York Times did an investigation on the percentage of young women who are on some form of antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, and it's a stunningly high number. It's like almost 25%, I think. It's unbelievable. I'm glad he's talking about it. Even if we don't always agree on the solutions, it is clear that American health has gone in a very dark place over the past 20 years, and I'm glad somebody is at least giving voice to these issues.
Donald Trump's going to cut that budget, so good luck getting that done.
More Rising right after this.